What's up guys, and welcome back to Wall Street Millennial. On this channel, we cover everything related to stocks and investing. This video is brought to you by Omaze, where you can donate $10 to support a good cause and also get a chance to win a Tesla Model X, but more on that later. Let's imagine you're low on money and need a way to get some fast. If you don't have any legal or ethical restriction, the most efficient way to do this is to steal it from somebody else. You could break into a car or rob your local liquor store, but this will only get you a few $1,000s at most. If you want to make real money, you're going to have to think even bigger. You could become a pirate and steal a boat, which is still done today around Somalia. But this will only get you a few $1,000,000. Let's say you want hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. Is it even possible? It's very much possible, but you're going to have to think even bigger. You can't just steal an individual asset, you need to hijack an entire company. Specifically, you should target a large and growing technology company, as these are the most valuable. You might think that this is an absurd fantasy. How can you just walk into the headquarters of a multi-billion-dollar corporation and just declare that it's yours? But it's not a fantasy, and it's happening today. Alan Wu is currently the CEO of a semiconductor company called ARM China. ARM China is a subsidiary of the semiconductor giant ARM Holdings, which has an estimated valuation of $60 billion. All the way back in 2018, the ARM parent company tried to fire Alan as they claimed that he was corrupt and abused his position to enrich himself. But Alan just refused to leave. He remains CEO to this day, and in fact declared ARM China will be an independent company controlled by him. It's hard to overstate how big of a deal this is. ARM China has $700 million in annual revenue, and based on some reasonable assumptions, it's probably worth more than $15 billion. And one guy basically hijacked it and declared himself as supreme leader. In this video, we'll look at what ARM China is, why they can't fire Alan Wu, and what he plans to do with the company going forward. Quick pause from Omaze, who is a sponsor of this video. Omaze gives away one-of-a-kind prizes and experiences while donating money to chosen charities all across the world. Their sustainable approach to fundraising means that nonprofits can spend less time and money raising funds, and instead focus on serving the needs of their communities. Recently, Omaze got their hands on a Tesla Model X Plaid, which currently has a waitlist of 6 months. This car is a true beast. Despite being an SUV that can seat up to 7 people, it can also accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 2.5 seconds, which is faster than a Porsche 911. The best part about Omaze is that you can donate for a chance to win this Tesla. Donations support 2 really impactful charities. The first is Give Power, which uses its deep solar expertise to power and provide clean water, food security, and light to regions in need around the world. The second is a charity called 501c3, which focuses on galvanizing the younger generations to build innovative solutions in the areas of energy, food, water, and shelter. For your chance to win a Tesla Model X and support these 2 great charities, go to omaze.com/WSM. And now back to the video. If you own a mobile phone, either iPhone or Android, there's a pretty good chance that the chip within it was built on the ARM architecture. ARM doesn't manufacture the chips, they just design them. But their proprietary architecture is considered to be leading edge. For example, Apple's recently developed M1 proprietary chip is built off of it. Whenever a company uses ARM's architecture, they have to pay royalties. In 2016, the Japanese technology conglomerate SoftBank acquired ARM for about $30 billion. At the time, the biggest growth area for the company was China. With 1.4 billion people in a rapidly expanding technology sector, the country promised to become one of their biggest, if not their single biggest regional market. They created a subsidiary called ARM China, which was focused on designing chips for local Chinese customers. The unit was very successful and they landed high-profile customers, including China's smartphone giant Huawei. In 2018, they sold a 51% stake in the subsidiary to a consortium of investors led by Hopu Investments, which is one of the largest private equity funds in China. While ARM technically no longer held majority control, they were still the single largest shareholder. But around that time is when the problem started happening. Alan Wu was a longtime executive at ARM, working in the Greater China region. When they first established the ARM China subsidiary, he was the natural choice to take over as CEO. Around the same time that Alan took over as ARM China CEO, he also started his own private company called Alphatecture Venture Fund, which invests in early-stage Chinese technology companies. Almost immediately, Alphatecture's activities started raising red flags. In 2019, his fund invested about $20 million in a company called Best Technic, which is a major customer of ARM. Just 2 years later, it increased tenfold, bagging Wu and his associates a $179 million gain. Interestingly, just a few weeks after he made the investment, ARM's accelerator program also invested in Best Technic, which gave them a huge boost. But even before that, there were problems. Allen reportedly offered discounts to ARM customers if they invested in Alphatecture. He even got a couple members of ARM China's board of directors to invest. As CEO of the company and owner of Alphatecture, his role became blurred. Alphatecture focuses very heavily on investing in companies which ARM has business relationships with. Allen claims that this is actually a good thing. Through his venture capital investments, he can build better relationships which will benefit ARM in the long run. But SoftBank and Hopoo weren't buying his explanation at all. It looked a lot more like Wu was trying to abuse his power to enrich himself. For example, it's possible that Allen agreed to give Best Technic discounts if they let Alphatecture invest in them at an artificially low valuation. This type of situation where you have the right hand giving to the left hand is exactly what you should be suspicious of. In 2018, the CEOs of Hopoo Investments and SoftBank, who together own a majority stake in ARM China, decided that enough was enough and Allen Wu had to go. In fact, the entire board of directors, with the exception of Allen himself, voted in favor of firing him. In a normal company, this is simple. If the majority of shareholders want you gone, there's no way to fight against it. You just have to pack up your bags and go home. But Allen Wu wasn't about to go down so easily. In many Asian countries, including China, every company is given an official company seal called a chop. These official seals have been used for thousands of years and are still recognized in courts today. The chop is required to approve official documents and make large strategic changes at the company, including firing the CEO. Somehow, Allen managed to get the seal within his possession, so the only person who can fire him is himself. After he refused to leave, SoftBank, Hopoo Investments, and all the other investors have been going to court to try to remove the seal from him. There's not really any disagreement. Pretty much everybody wants him gone. At first, people thought it was no big deal. Feng Lei, who is CEO of Hopoo Investments, has been a member of China's financial elite for decades. In the past, he has advised the government on many high-profile transactions involving the country's massive state-owned enterprises, including China Mobile and Sinopec. Most observers assumed that he could pull some strings and expedite the court proceedings. But now, 4 years later, Allen is still CEO and still has access to ARM China's bank accounts and full control over its operations. To add insult to injury, he is using ARM China's money to pay for his own legal fees in court battles against the parent company. He fired anyone who was against him taking over the company and employed private security services to keep them out. While ARM technically still owns ARM China, the subsidiary is for all practical purposes operating as an independent entity. After the split, ARM stopped providing them with their latest chip designs, so ARM China started developing its own new chips in parallel. They recently developed a new chip called the XPU, which they claim is currently being used by almost 100 customers within China. According to Allen, ARM China is doing well. They've met all of their revenue targets with $700 million worth of sales in 2021. He even says that the company could pursue its own independent IPO by 2025. So why has it been so difficult for ARM to take back control from Allen? This is speculation, but it could be the case that the Chinese government prefers ARM China to be independent. Semiconductor design and manufacturing has become a strategic priority for countries around the world, with governments doling out tens of billions of dollars to support the industry within their borders. It's possible that China wants ARM China to become a domestic chip design champion, independent of foreign influence. But this is all speculation. It's also possible that it just has to do with the arcane structure of Chinese law regarding the official company seal. But regardless of why the court process is taking so long, the result is disastrous for the ARM parent company. When SoftBank acquired the company in 2016, China made up 20% of its sales and was growing rapidly. The Chinese market has now been taken over by ARM China, so this business is basically just gone. It appears that SoftBank is tired of dealing with this headache and wants to divest the company. Last year, they tried to sell ARM to rival chipmaker Nvidia for $40 billion. After a year-long review, this deal was blocked by US and European regulators for anti-monopoly grounds. With the merger scrapped, SoftBank is planning to do an IPO for ARM at a $60 billion valuation. But they knew that before the IPO begins, they had to resolve the China issue. To resolve it, ARM will transfer ownership of ARM China to a special purpose entity owned by SoftBank. With this transfer, SoftBank will be responsible for dealing with the situation. If we apply the same revenue multiple as the ARM parent company's planned IPO, ARM China is worth around $16 billion. But until Allen Wu can be forced out, SoftBank's stake in the company might not be worth anything at all. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. What do you think about the ARM China situation? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to go to omaze.com/WSM for your chance to win a Tesla Model X Plaid and support a great cause. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Wall Street Millennial, signing out.